Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Today I'm doing something a little bit different. Usually on Tip Thursdays, I like to put out some type of content that has to do around homeschooling, tips, tricks, advice, different things about how we do things. As you can see back here, I have all my curriculum laid out and I just halted my video, came to a stop because I think we need to talk about this. Going into a new school year every year, something I like to do is kind of reflect on the previous year and actually look at what that year looked like for us and what I want differently for this year. This is also a time where I like to remind myself the reason we decided to homeschool 10 years ago, my long-term goals with homeschooling, where I want to see my kids excel, and what foundation we actually want to build for our children. So it's just a refresher, reflection type of period before I start our school year. Looking back on this school year, it was very chaotic. There was not much rhythm to it. It was crazy busy. I don't feel I was able to actually enjoy this school year with my kids. It just felt very rushed and very fast paced. As I spilled coffee on my shirt, I had to clean that up real quick. So one thing that I have really focused in on, like I said, is just trying to narrow down the areas that maybe caused such a crummy year for us this year. And I'm going to start with number one of the changes that I'm going to make that I really realized was a big issue this year. And this is probably the top issue for sure that interfered with this year. And that is doing all the things. You don't have to do all the things. And just because everybody else does all the things does not mean you have to do that, or it's a good fit in your life or in the season of life that you're in. I think you really have to realistically look at what you have on your plate because we're all different. There are some of us who cannot handle doing a lot of things and multitasking. There are some of us who can do like 100 things. Survive. They might not be, they might be miserable, but they're capable of doing all kinds of things and wearing all different types of hats. And, everybody's life is different and what people can handle is different. Everybody has their own thresholds. But with that being said, one thing I did this year is, we did all the things and I'm going to tell you about it. I'm going to tell you why we're not doing all the things this year. So we had swim lessons, we had gymnastics, we had baseball, we had horse lessons, we had youth group, we had a community Bible study, we had a kids club at our kids' church. I know I'm missing things. We were busy. We were always running around. We were just always on the go. Middle of the day, oh my goodness, hurry up. We have this today. Totally forgot about it. Everyone get ready. And mind you, we're like at least half an hour from the majority of things that we do. And if not longer than that. So everything we had to do required everybody leaving the house, getting all the shoes. Kids can't find their shoes. Someone's missing something. We're running late. We're running behind. Games got canceled. Weather came in. Practices got canceled. We'd get all the way to the field and then they're like, oh, we're canceling. And it's like, well, great. We're only over a half an hour away. But sure, we'll go home. There was so much running around that it became where I felt like a taxi driver. My kids were just like, it was more like just having playtime. And I really had to stop and look at that and realize what I did. So having a lot of kids, if one person's allowed to do this and somebody else wants to do this, it's really hard to tell your other kids, no, you can't play baseball because your sisters are doing gymnastics. It's really hard. And as a mom, especially as a homeschool mom, I think you feel more for your kids. And it's like you want them to have that outlet. You want them to enjoy themselves and do something that they're good at or they enjoy doing. But sometimes you just have to say no to all the things. You don't always have to be busy. And that's how I was this past year. And it was miserable. And our focus was more on making sure we were on time for all the things every single day or every other day than it was to actually get through our school year. And I don't want to do that again. I'm going to pray. We're going to have talks. We're going to figure things out because none of the boys want to do Boy Scouts, and the girls, one of my daughters really like gymnastics. The other one's wrapping up tennis right now. And we're just coming to an end with everything. Swim lessons ended. And I'm just really reflecting on how this past year went. And it was just too busy. It was too busy. We were always on the go. And I feel like we're in such a generation where like busyness is the thing. I'm just going to be more mindful of what I'm adding to our plate. I'm going to pray about it first. I'm going to really think through and be mindful on these things. Number 2 is most definitely simplifying and decluttering. So this stems back from a couple years ago, and I could sit here and make a whole video on this, but I'm going to do my best to sum it up as quickly as possible. So in the videos, yeah, the house can look neat, it can look organized, it can look put together, but when you actually start digging through things and pulling things out, like my homeschool room took me like a week to get in order. We have 8 kids, mind you. I have curriculum that, you know, I have to use, I have to have stored in here. Every single grade level comes with their own subjects, all their core subjects, and it's a lot when you have a lot of kids. It's a lot of material that you have to find room for. So I'm very thankful that we have a homeschool room to keep it in, but it's really hard, especially it's not huge to fit all 8 of us in here. You can start easily feeling claustrophobic, and there's all kinds of things around us. So it's distracting, but there's a lot to manage in this room. So with that being said, decluttering and simplifying what I can in the house is helpful, just because so much of this stuff, we do need and we do use every day. So a couple years ago, over the past few years, I'd say, like back to the pandemic, let's just go there and be real here. I got into a really unhealthy mindset. I watched a lot of things that were not good choices. I don't think of content that I spent my time watching on YouTube that it became more fear-mongering videos and videos that were just kind of, I think, causing a lot of people to panic even more so with what we were going through and make rash decisions based off emotions. And the main emotion of fear, is this going to be in the store tomorrow if I don't buy it right now? There was a time where I think everybody went through that. And over the past couple years, there's been so many economic issues and rumors of war and, pharmaceutical scares with shortages and inflation. And I mean, unless you've been living under a rock, I could sit here and make a whole video on it, and I'm not going to, because there's hundreds of people out there who still make the same videos to this day that they've been making for the past 3 years. I'm not here to do that. I'm different. I do believe in being aware and being prepared, but I don't believe in fear mongering and causing people to make rash decisions out of fear and spinning the same stuff for 3 years, on repeat over and over. But I did fall into watching the wrong content, and I definitely consumed many more things than I ever would have had I not kind of fallen into that unhealthy trap of living in fear. And if you have a relationship with God, you're not going to live in fear. You're going to trust that God's going to provide for you one way or another. That doesn't mean just sit stagnant and not do anything. I think there were promptings when I felt like, yes, we should stock up on this. Yes, we should stock up on that. I think that's important, to work on how much we have of this item. But there's also like, I'm not going to, I didn't want to be unhealthy about that and just store stuff everywhere in every nook and cranny of the house and drive myself nuts over it. There's a realization where you can only do so much, and that's kind of the wall that I hit, and I just stopped watching all that stuff and all that content. But since then, I had fallen into that mindset of, we might need this, what if we need this? And that is not a healthy mindset to have. It really is not. It really wears on you emotionally and physically, and the stress, and there's no mental clarity having all that stuff, because you have to manage all that stuff and have a place for all that stuff. And it can become very overwhelming. And so I really have looked at what we have, and it's not like ridiculous, but there's a lot of my time throughout the day going to manage things. And I am just managing things, or constantly, cleaning. And like my pantry, yes, it is a long-term and working pantry. And sometimes it can get out of control and crazy, and I can sit there for a couple hours and reorganize and clean it, and a lot of my time's going to that. But that has helped us so many times, having that pantry. For financial issues, we've had so many times throughout our marriage where, like, financially we just had to go months without income because all my husband's money was tied up in jobs and job materials, or people weren't paying on time. And I mean, or, you know, weather. We have really bad flash flooding here. We just had it recently, really significantly damaged a lot in the area. There were mandatory evacuations. There's a lot of different things that can happen. And, you know, especially when you have kids, I think you realize you're responsible and accountable for feeding them. So that's one area I do spend a lot of time in if it gets out of hand. But that is important to me. It is important to have that amount of food put back in it is cycled through constantly, and that's where it's a lot to manage because you're constantly cycling, constantly looking at how you can use things, so it's not sitting there going bad, rotting, because what good is that doing? So I'm talking about other areas of my house where I'm just like, we need to really reduce what we have and simplify, because I'm sick of my time going to managing things and not going to playing games with my kids or enjoying my kids or sitting on the front porch with a cup of coffee looking at the most beautiful view that God gave us in front of our home, just the trees and the outdoors, the mountains, you know, all that. I'd love to do that, and I just don't have the time because I'm too busy managing things, and there's no peace in the home when things are disarray and disorganized and chaotic and confusing, and you know, you don't even like remember where stuff's supposed to go because sometimes it gets too out of hand. So that's just one area I am doing, like, now. I am doing, because it's driving me nuts, and I'm going to keep doing it. I've already done 2 runs to donations down the hill, and I'm going to continue till I feel we're okay. Some things we have to have a lot of, like I said, the homeschool room. I have to homeschool my kids, and I'm not going to throw out materials that I know I'm going to use for my kids that we've already paid for, that I am currently using. It's just trying to be strategic, storing these things, and maybe getting rid of the things that we don't absolutely have to have. Number 3, I need to stop saying yes to everything. And this is, like, once again, real raw and honest here, not sugarcoating any of it, calling myself out, calling it what it is. You know, if I'm being lazy, I'll call myself lazy. But this is one issue I've had, and I know my husband's brought it up to me numerous times. I think this impacts women more than it does men, honestly, because women are more emotional about things. So I have a problem with saying no to people. I'm getting really good about saying, like, no. I don't care if you think I'm rude. No, I can't do that. Because I've burned myself out. So saying yes to things, taking things on, committing to things. I used to just be like, yes. Or you feel on the spot because the person's, like, face to face with you, or, like, needs an answer right then and there, and you're just like, yeah, sure, I can do that. And then come that day that you're supposed to do what you agree to, you're kicking yourself in the pants because it's, like, really not a good day to do that. Like, there's other things that you should be using your time for that day, or maybe that day didn't work out after all, but you have to do it because you've said it. And for me personally, my other problem is, it's not a problem, but I believe, like, in good character, and I think it's a good characteristic to stick to your word, be a man of your word, woman of your word, whatever, but to stick to your word. So if I say yes to something, come hell or high water, I'm doing it. I'm just doing it, and I can be extremely miserable, but I'm going to do it. And I really had to retrain my brain to, instead of just instantly giving a yes or a no, you know, if I know it's not going to work and I'm like, hey, I'm busy that day, sorry, I can't do that, I'll say no right off the bat. I'm not going to, like, you know, make them wait for an answer. Or if I know, yes, I definitely can do that, that's not a big deal at all, you know, I'll say yes. But for the majority of things, I need to, like, stop and be like, I can't answer that right now, but I will go home and look at my calendar, my schedule, and I will give you an answer by tomorrow or by this evening. You know, whatever is realistic for me. And I need to be more mindful of what I'm adding to my plate. And it's okay to say no. And, you know, you want to be a good person. And I think women, like I said, really get wrapped up in emotions. You know, like, oh my goodness, that person's asked 5 different people. They've all said no. I really should do that. Like, you feel more for people, and you feel more maybe sympathy, and you want to help, and, you know, be that good person that comes in like a hero, like, yes, thank you, I knew I could count on you. But to have to sit there and say no, That's not as easy. At least it hasn't been for me. So for me, I need to watch what I'm saying yes to. And also, I'm going to leave this here real quick. When you say yes to something, and this is really, when I was praying about this and I was really thinking everything through, this totally just lit up in my head. When you say yes to something, you are saying no to something else. And that just hits the nail on the head completely. I think no matter who you are, it's so true. And it's like, yes, I volunteered to maybe teach in Sunday school this Sunday, but now I'm having to say no to the fire department when that's truck maintenance day for the firefighters, and now they're going to be one person short. Or if I'm saying, yes, you can come over, we're going to have dinner together. I'm saying no to my husband. That was like, maybe I didn't know because I didn't ask him. I'm like, yeah, sure, that'd be great. And then my husband's like, I really want to do this weekend. And I'm like, well, we got to say no to that because, now we have a family coming over with their kids to come hang out and play. So everything you say yes to, you're saying no to something else. So think that through when you're making your choices and your decisions before you say yes to somebody, and think what you're going to have to say no to. And, lately for me, it's been housework. I've said yes to all these things. I've committed, made commitments to all these things. And now it's like my house is kind of suffering for that. And I'm tired because I've went and done all these things. So it's like, at night I'm doing my housework and I'm like, I don't even want to be doing this. I'm so tired. I just want to go to bed. But now I've fallen behind because I've said yes to all these other things and no to housework. And now my house is getting out of control, which is making me realize I need to declutter. I need to simplify. This just can't go on. It's frustrating. It's overwhelming. There's no peace in the house, and it's just creating tension. And, my husband has no problem calling me out for everything. I have no problem calling myself out for everything, but I don't need my husband to come home and remind me like, oh, well, you shouldn't have said yes to this, or you shouldn't have added this to your plate. Just be mindful about what you're adding onto your plate, because we can't do everything ourselves for long. Seriously, you can't do everything yourself that far. You eventually you're going to hit a wall and realize you can't do everything. 4 for me is just trying to be balanced, getting my priorities in order. My priorities are not in order. In fact, I have totally backslidden in my walk with God. I've been busy. I've been caught up in busyness, and that happens. I mean, how can it not? We're busy all the time. We have all these things to do. And if you're a homeschooling mom, your kids aren't at school and you don't have that time to yourself, but maybe a lot of moms, who have their kids in public school, I should be careful how I word that. Maybe they have a job and they're at work and they don't have any free time. But for the moms that have kids in school and you're at home, you have that time, you can really manage your time and get a lot of things done. But as a homeschool mom, you're always home. And so it's really different, managing your time. You really have to be intentional about finding the time to do things. Finding balance can be really hard. And for me personally, I am not an early riser because I go to bed late. I'm a night owl right now. It's just a season of life. I'm studying for exams and tests, and I have all the things going on. I think anyone who's watched my videos knows by now. In Fire Academy and all these things that I really need to study, and I need to really practice these things and grasp and have a good understanding of. So my mind is elsewhere right now, but I need to be better about managing my time and my priorities. And honestly, I have found over the years, if God is not center in my life, everything's off kilter. And that's just so true. I look back at years where I made the time and I had the time because I had less kids. I mean, I'll be realistic here, but I'm not going to excuse myself completely. I don't always manage my time correctly and make intentional time for God. And in all honesty, if you really want to do something, you will make the time for it. And so, like I said, I've gotten really lazy in my walk with God and my priorities and centering Him in my life, and therefore everything's just off balance and off center in my life, and nothing's going smooth. So just balancing and juggling, getting your priorities in order, and just once you have your priorities in order, things just run so much smoother. And I feel like you have more of a clear head to actually manage your time better. And that is kind of going to lead up to number 5 here. Number 5 for me is to be more intentional. I've had a lot of years where I've been intentional and I loved it. I just got so much time with my kids. and I was able to relax and just like sit outside with them while they play, and not like send them out the door to play by themselves because I'm just too busy. I got too much to do inside. I was able to have a cup of coffee on the porch and relax and put my feet up. And I feel now that I have not been able to do that. I have not been able to rest. I don't have that time to just relax and be still. And so for me personally, I need to be more intentional with the time that I do have. A lot of the time, I personally feel like I am just trying to check off boxes, and I hate it. But a lot of my days, in all honesty, being open and honest and raw, nobody's perfect. And if you see that online, you're not seeing the whole picture. Nobody is perfect. It might look perfectly, beautifully streamlined, but it's not. There's all kinds of chaos going on in everybody's life. Like, everybody has something they have to deal with. But for me personally, I have really failed at this past year. Like, I've really been in a checkbox mentality, and like, we have to do this, we have to do that, we have to get that done, where I'm more or less just trying to survive the day and just get through it to be done. I got interrupted and I am not sure where my brain was at, so I'm going to try and not repeat myself. But I really got into a checkbox mode where I just had to check off boxes, trying to get through the day, trying to survive, and wasn't really intentional with that time. I asked myself, where was the value in today? What did I do that would actually held value? Did I make a memory with my kids? Did I play a board game? Did I have time to do that with them? Was I intentional in my homemaking, or was I just scrambling to get it done and check it off? I mean, how many times? That's like almost every day for me in my mind. I'm like, I just need to get this done. I need to get this done. I'm not intentionally focusing on what I'm even doing. Sometimes it's almost robotically, like I'm doing it, like sometimes you're driving and your mind's like a mile, 100 miles an hour going in your head, and you're driving, and before you know it, you're where you're supposed to be. And it's like, how did I even get here? Like, you're not even conscious, almost like you just are doing it because you're doing it. There's no intention there, not much meaning. And I really have struggled with that this past year. And I want to be more intentional. I want to focus on things. When I'm doing homemaking, I don't want to scramble through it and, oh, look, the house looks clean, done. I want to be intentional with the things that I'm doing, the tasks that I'm doing. I want to be thorough. I want to be present when I'm doing them. And that's where I feel like a lot of the time I don't even feel present. Like, I'm just scrambling to do the things. And that's back to the busyness, We're busy. We have too much on our plates, and it's like this thing now. Like, everybody has to be busy, and you don't have to. So going into this new school year, whether you homeschool, whether you don't, look at your year, this past year, and I challenge you to look at your year, to reflect on it, and actually, ask yourself, were you happy with the way things went? Maybe your kids did all the things and it worked great for you, and you're going to do them all again this year. I mean, that's awesome. That's awesome if it worked for you and you had a great year. Or maybe your year was just as chaotic as mine, and you just feel like you're just going through life in a blur, and you can't even recall what you did yesterday because you had so many things, and your to-do list is only growing, and your time's being thrown, and your attention at all these other things in your life that shouldn't be top priority. And maybe you need to move some things on your list of priorities around to have a smoother year. Whatever you are doing, I really do suggest that you look at your life the past year and see, going into this new school year, what changes you want to make. Did things work great for your family last year, or are there some areas that maybe you need to make some changes and take a load off? After talking to a couple friends of mine that have always been busy, they're busy, nice full busy days, I've really stepped back, and I'm like, okay, this is a problem. There's so many people who just are doing all these things all the time and have no time for people. They have no time to build relationships and make relationships with other people, to enjoy the blessings that God has given them. We have this beautiful home. We have a beautiful view outside. We have adorable animals on our homestead, and just all these things and like beautiful wildflowers out in the yard. And my kids finally have an area where they can play that's safe and, for the most part, bear proof and wildlife proof. And like, I haven't even been able to go outside and really play with them all, but maybe 2 or 3 times. I'm busy, and I want to enjoy these things. Long-winded here, but I do want to be more intentional with the choices I am making for us, for our family, as we navigate through this next homeschool year. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful. I hope it helped you to maybe reflect on things in your life and maybe to see that it is okay to slow down and to just remind yourself you don't always have to be on the go doing something all the time. The days are long, but the years are short, and there's a lot of time I'm not going to get back with my kids, especially my older kids already. That window is getting smaller and smaller each passing day, and I've just really been reflecting a lot on the time that I have had with them. What can I say we've done? I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I hope before you leave, you subscribe to the channel if you have not already subscribed. Would absolutely love to have you here. Anyway, let me know down in the comments below if you have anything to say or add into this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And I will see you guys on the next video. Until then, take care and God bless.